So, today we're going to talk about a crypto project that kicked off way back in 2016 with a just massive vision to build a global decentralized supercomputer. The project is the Golem network, and its token is GLM. But here's the thing, after all these years, has it actually lived up to that promise? Or is it just a really cool idea that never quite took off? Let's dig in. Okay, so the entire idea, the big spark behind Golem, it all comes down to this one simple but really powerful question. What if all the unused processing power just sitting around in our computers, when we're not using them, could be plugged into one giant global network? What if you could actually get paid for that power and other people could rent it whenever they needed it? That's the huge concept we're going to unpack today. And this was the grand vision they pitched back in 2016. The goal was nothing short of building the backbone for the future of things like AI, 3D rendering, and heavy-duty data analysis. It was all about creating this open, peer-to-peer alternative to the giants we all know, like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud. Sounds incredible, right? But have they actually pulled it off? Right, so to figure that out, we've got to get into the nitty-gritty of how this whole marketplace actually works. How does a network with no one in charge connect people who have computer power with the people who need it? Let's break it down. So at its most basic level, Golem is a decentralized computing platform. It's designed to connect two groups of people. You've got providers, those are folks with extra CPU or GPU power to spare, and then you have requesters who need that power for big, complicated jobs. And the really key part here is that there's no central company, no middleman controlling the whole process. And the way it works is actually pretty simple. First, a requester submits a job to the network. Then, providers who have their computers sitting idle can make an offer to do that work. Golem's network itself acts like a matchmaker, pairing the right job with the right provider. And once the task is finished, boom, the requester pays the provider using the network's own crypto token, GLM. It's simple, it's direct, it's peer-to-peer. So who exactly is this for? Well, the main use cases are for tasks that need just a massive amount of processing power. We're talking about things like Hollywood-level CGI and 3D rendering, super complex scientific simulations for university research, training big AI models, basically any huge computational job that you can break up into smaller pieces and have lots of computers work on at the same time. Okay, so we know the what and the how. Now let's look at the project's journey. How has Golem actually evolved since it started back in 2016? And, where does it sit in the market today? You got to remember, Golem was a real OG in this space. It was founded after a ridiculously successful crowdfunding campaign in 2016. They hit their target in just 29 minutes. The main network officially went live in 2018. A huge milestone since then was when they moved from their original token, GNT, to the new one, GLM. GLM is an ERC20 token, which, in simple terms, just means it's built on the Ethereum standard and plays nicely with the whole ecosystem of wallets and exchanges. Much easier for everyone. And if we look at the numbers today, what we see is a project that's kind of settled into the middle tier of the crypto market. Its market cap usually floats somewhere between $125 and $230 million, putting it in, say, the top 160 to 180 projects. And with over 50,000 wallets holding the token, you can see there's definitely a dedicated community there, but it's a long way from mass adoption. Now, this next point is super important when we talk about the token. The entire supply of 1 billion GLM tokens is already out there, in circulation. On the one hand, that's awesome for transparency. There are no secret team tokens locked away that could be dumped on the market later. But on the other hand, it means all the potential sell pressure is already out in the wild, which can definitely affect how the price moves. All right, and this is where we get to the real heart of the matter, that big gap between Golem's incredible promise and the tough reality it's facing today. This is where the story gets really, really interesting. Golem promised us a decentralized supercomputer for everyone, but the reality is that these deep, heavy-duty infrastructure projects can take years to get real traction. They promised it would be cheaper, but they're fighting against the unbelievable scale and convenience of the centralized giants. These companies don't just sell you raw computing power. They give you support, reliability, and a super smooth user experience that's just incredibly tough for a decentralized project to compete with. And while Golem wanted to open up computing for everyone, the platform is still pretty complex, creating a real technical barrier for more casual users. So let's just be real for a second and break down the major risks you got to consider here. The slow adoption by both users and the developers who build on the platform is a huge hurdle. That technical complexity we talked about keeps a lot of potential users away. From an investment angle, the token's price has a long history of just moving sideways for long stretches of time. There's this undeniable gap between the powerful story and the tangible, visible results. And all of this is happening while competition is heating up from everywhere. So, with all that in mind, this tension between the big promise and the current reality, where does Golem go from here? Let's explore 3 possible futures: the best case, the okay case, and the worst case. Okay, let's talk about the best case scenario, the bull case. This is where Golem finally has its aha moment. It lands some major partnerships or integrations, maybe with big AI companies or large research institutions. This sets off a chain reaction of real-world use, creating genuine demand for its network, and, of course, for the GLM token. This is the future where that original 2016 vision finally becomes a reality. Then you've got the neutral, kinda middle-of-the-road scenario. In this version of the future, Golem doesn't exactly take over the world. Instead, it just keeps chugging along, growing slowly and organically. It carves out a sustainable but pretty small role for itself in niche markets that really care about decentralization. It survives, it provides value, but it never quite hits that mainstream level of adoption it was aiming for. And finally, we have to look at the bear case. This is where the competition just proves to be too much. The ease and power of centralized services, plus newer, more focused decentralized projects, end up squeezing Golem out of the market. Its one-size-fits-all approach gets pushed aside by more specialized solutions, and the project just stagnates. And so that's what it all boils down to, right? Is Golem a sleeping giant, a fundamental piece of Web3 infrastructure that's just waiting for its moment to shine? Or is it a ghost of crypto's past, a brilliant revolutionary idea that the world just moved on from? That's the billion-dollar question Golem still has to answer.